Welcome to Learnetude. I'm commencing a new series of MCQs which will include the general English. In almost every competitive exam for either admission to a university or for any certification or eligibility license exams or for any job perspective, basic language proficiency questions are always asked, and English is the most common language globally all over the world. So let's hope you find this series helpful. These questions in this video were asked in Lok Sabha Secretariat exam for the clerk position in 2023. The first section is fill in the blanks with the most appropriate form of those given after the sentences. We have to choose the most appropriate word from the four options given below. So the first question is, the office staff members wished dash on the New Year's Day. We have A, B, C, and D. Let's one by one speak. Now in exam center you can't speak it loudly as it will disturb other people. So you have to silently read the question and one by one you have to pick the options and put it in the blank, and then you have to infer the meaning or see if it is grammatically fitting, grammatically correct, or grammatically suitable to the question asked. So first is one another. The office staff members wished one another on the New Year's Day. Now this can be right, so let's put a question mark here. We can't just decide and confirm if the option number A is seemingly suitable. We have to also see the other options. So next is, the office staff members wished one other on the New Year's Day. Now one other is not the right answer. It is not grammatically correct. Why? Because this phrase one other typically refers to single additional item or person. For example, if I give example, I have one other TV or a pen, any noun, an additional item or a person, any additional noun. I have one other TV or a pen or a book, or it can be a purse, etc. So this is not the right answer, because there are more than one office staff members. There are multiple, more than one. In office or in school there are many employees, so that can't be a single additional person. In the question we have clearly been given information that there is more than one person. It's not like two colleagues are greeting each other on the New Year's Day. Fine. Then the next is each other. The office staff members wished each other on the New Year's Day. So this also seems suitable as the correct answer to this question. We'll come back to it later. Let's see at the option number D. Everyone. This is not also the right answer. Why? Because we are given information that they are assumingly greeting one another or each other, and not everyone. Everyone can include persons outside the office as well, so we are not sure, right? We have to stick to what information is provided in the question. Also not the right answer, because everyone means like all people in a group collectively, and saying wished everyone would imply that the staff members, they together wished the single group, everyone. That can be from the office or outside as well, rather than each person wishing others well, and which changes the intended meaning. So now let's take a look at the option number A, which we first thought as the answer. correct answer to this question. Now, one another is grammatically correct, right? And each other is also grammatically correct. There can be now only one right answer. So what would that be? One another or each other? Both are fitting the appropriate word in the blanks which we have to fill. Let's take a look which will be suitable more. Now, according to the official answer key of Lok Sabha exam 2023, the answer is each other. Now, let's compare. So, one another and each other. Both are correct, but one another is a bit more formal and each other is used in informal context and is mostly used commonly than one another. The information provided in this question is New Year's Day, right? It's not a Founders Day or an office celebration day. It's a New Year's Day, which is very much an informal event, a personal event. So each other fits this question correctly and more appropriately. That is why each other is more suitable here and is the correct answer, each other. Now the second question is his speech dash over the radio last Thursday. So here last Thursday means we are talking about past. Let's take a look at the options. Was broadcasted, was broadcast, had been broadcast, broadcasted. And all are forms of past tense. So which one is the right answer? Was broadcasted and option B was broadcast. Now A option broadcasted in informal contexts, not correct form of past participle of the verb broadcast. The right answer is B was broadcast. Broad A seen broadcasted, you must have heard some people use it, but it is not the correct past participle or third form of the verb of broadcast. So third form of the verb was broadcast is the correct answer. The next, the option number C, had been broadcasted. Had been plus the verb had been. Remember anything? This is called as the past perfect or perfect past tense, which indicates an action which was completed before another past action. In this sentence, we are not provided this information that a second past event was there to justify the past perfect tense. Since the sentence, it simply states a fact about last Thursday, the last week, the simple past was broadcast is more appropriate here. So was in both options, simple past. Option A and B belongs to simple past. Then option number C, had been, is past perfect tense. And broadcasted again is not the right answer, as it is a non-standard, not grammatically correct according to the time of event. According to time of event, or you can say the tenses. So the correct answer is was broadcast. His speech was broadcast over the radio last Thursday. So the next question is, when are you dash to write to your friend? And the options are starting, thinking, going and wanting. First, take a look at the sentence. So in the sentence we have you plus are. This is the subject, and we know that after subject comes the verb. You plus are plus verb in the ing form belongs to present continuous or progressive tense. In the first go, all of the four options which are verbs, they seem correct because of plus ing form of the verb, that is present continuous. But we have to see each one of them separately and carefully before deciding which one is the correct option. So let's take a look at the options one by one. So the option number A is starting, which implies or indicates beginning of an action, but it is less idiomatic in this context. Why? Because if we read out the sentence loudly, I mean not in the exam you have to read it out loudly, but in your mind, because you will be disturbing the other persons. When you read it aloud, when are you starting to write to your friend? Now this is a question, right? When are you starting to write to your friend? It sounds awkward grammatically. With ing form of the verb, all four options they seem correct, that is in the progressive tense, but we have to find appropriate suitable verb here so that this forms some meaning and the correct answer explains the intended meaning of the sentence given. So here one person is asking the other person about his or her plan. When he is planning, when she is planning to write a letter or email to his friend. That is the given question which we have to complete. The starting implies the act of beginning the writing process at specific moment of the time, which doesn't align naturally with the given sentence intent of asking about a planned action. Right? Next, option B is thinking. In standard English phrase, when are you thinking to write to your friend, is grammatically incorrect. The verb think is typically followed by of or about. Example, thinking of writing. I am thinking of baking, or I am thinking about my mother, or etc. Again, keeping in mind the expectation of the given sentence, the intention or plan, that is writing a letter or email. So option B Option B does not fit the sentence. Let's move on to option number D first. Wanting. Saying, when are you wanting to write to your friend? The whole sentence again feels grammatically incorrect. Take a look at want. Now, want is a stative verb and not typically used in continuous or progressive ing form in this context. And again, it does not explain or say about a specific plan or action of writing a letter, especially when the person is asking a question. So, wanting is not the right answer. The correct option is, and the leftover option is, going. Why going is the right answer? Let's take a look. Going is commonly used to express future intentions or plans. For example, I am going to meet my friend, or I'm going to Hawaii. Next question number 4 is, I live in a small house, but it dash my needs perfectly. Carefully look at this word, but. Remember anything? This is a very commonly used word which we have been seeing a lot and hearing about also ever since we started learning the English language, right? What is this? This is a coordinating conjunction. What is a conjunction? Conjunction are linking words, that is, words which link or connect two sentences. Here you can see, I live in a small house is the first sentence, and it dash my needs. After filling the blank, it will become a whole sentence. So there are two sentences, and but is linking or connecting the two sentences here. That is why it is a conjunction. Now, but in English grammar is also a preposition. And some of you can ask that why but is a conjunction here and not a preposition. It's a very good question because here after but there is a whole sentence. This sentence, sentence number 2, is the whole sentence here. Mostly but is used as a preposition, as an alternative to except, for, or apart from, and bar, to introduce the only thing or person that the main part of the sentence does not include. That is, it is used to convey an exception. For example, if I say, I'll go anywhere for my holiday but Mumbai. I really hate it there. Fine? Hope it clears the confusion. Fine? Hope it clears the confusion. Let's now explore the options and find out our right answer. Option number A is settles. Settles is a verb which means to resolve, calm, or establish. Saying settles in this sentence, I live in a small house, but it settles my needs perfectly. It is not idiomatic in English. It does not convey the idea or talk about fulfilling or satisfying household needs or requirements. When I said idiomatic, idiomatic means natural or native speaker. Expressions that are natural to native speakers are called as idiomatic sentences or phrase. Option number C, supplies, is also a verb which means to provide. This option is nearly close to correct answer and seems appropriate here. So let's put it on hold and look at the other options, such as option number D, fills up. So if I say option number D, fills up, in this sentence, I live in a small house, but it fills up my needs perfectly. Nah. So this phrase, fills up, this is a phrase. It means occupying space or completing something to a capacity. Example, fills up a bucket in some sentence. If I say fills up my needs, then it sounds awkward and is not a standard expression or idiomatic sentence, because needs are not typically described as being filled up like a container. So fills up is absolutely not the right answer. So what is the correct answer, B or C? Let's take a look at B. So option number B, meets, is the correct answer. Why? Because out of the four, it is the most idiomatic verb here. And meet commonly means to satisfy or fulfill requirements. Example, meet someone's needs. So saying, I live in a small house, but it meets my needs perfectly, satisfy the speaker's requirements, aligning with the standard English usage. Next question, question number 5 is, may the new year dash in an era of peace and prosperity for all of us. Let's take a look at the options A, B, C, and D. Option number A, admit, is a verb which means to allow entry or acknowledge something. Example, admit a mistake. Nisha admitted her mistake. So saying, may the new year admit in an era of peace and prosperity for all of us does not make sense at all. Because here, in the given sentence, the occasion is the new year. And with may before, or you can say at the beginning of the sentence, we can right away say that it is a wishful greeting. And so the verb admit does not convey the idea or positive wish of initiating or bringing about a new year or a new period in someone's life. That is something hopeful. something which people look forward to. So, admit is not the right answer. The motto is a noun, which means some purpose or belief. Grammatically, it does not fit the sentence here. May the new year motto in an era of peace and prosperity for all of us. Why? Because if you see the sentence structure, then may is an auxiliary verb, modal verb. Then the is the definite article. New year is the subject, that is the noun. And so here after the subject, verb should come. So after a noun, again a noun is not grammatically correct. Therefore, after New Year, which is a noun, another noun motto cannot come grammatically in this sentence. Motto does not fill in the blank, as this sentence in question requires a verb to describe the action of the new year bringing about an era. So motto is not the right answer. Next, option number C, introduce. Introduce is again a verb, so it can fit in this sentence, but let's see it more in detail. Introduce means bring something into use or notice or operation for the first time. Example, new policy was introduced last month in my office. Or secondly, it can also mean make someone known by name to another in person, especially formally. Example, let me introduce to my husband. Example, let me introduce you to my husband, Max. Here in this sentence, introduce is not an appropriate verb and not idiomatic in this context. So this is also not the right answer, because if you are wishing someone a happy new year, you do not wish or pray that peace and prosperity be introduced or brought into use for the very first time. New Year, we all know, is the beginning of a new calendar, new date, new year, and which is hopeful, and the person or people to whom you are wishing is or are being here on this planet for a very long time. They have seen many years, good as well as bad. So unless someone is born or is a newly born child who was born yesterday, who is having his or her very first new year, very first new day. So introduce in this sentence is not idiomatic or natural expression or suitable here. So now we are left with the only option, which is usher, and it is absolutely correct answer. Usher is the most suitable and idiomatic, natural, native in speech, standard and eloquent expression. Usher is a verb which means cause or mark the start of something new. So in this sentence, may the new year usher in an era of peace and prosperity perfectly conveys that the new year will bring about a positive new phrase. Next question, question number 6 is the people dash the terrorist attack. Let's take a look at the structure of the sentence. The is the definite article. Then people is the subject, that is a noun, and so after the noun there should come a verb. So what we have to look in the four options is a verb. Now all four options here, A, B, C and D, are verbs. There is a word, terrorist. Terrorist is a person who uses unlawful violence, especially against civilians, in pursuit of some motto or aim. And terrorist attack in whole, which is always a sad event where there is loss of property, loss of lives. The verb here should mean something which goes opposite to terrorist attack. A verb which is not in support of terrorist attack or should praise of something bad or unkind. So the first option is option number A, criticized. Yes, it's a very powerful and a seemingly suitable verb here to fit in the blank and in this context. Criticize is a verb which indicates the faults of someone or something in a disapproving way. So here if I say the people criticized the terrorist attack, that would mean people disapproved or did not agree with the terrorist attack. But why here it is not best fit? Because criticized might imply a milder judgment, but it does not fully capture the strong moral outrage typically associated with such a sorrowful event. And number B is again a verb, condemned, which express complete disapproval of or censure. Or it can also mean sentence someone to a particular punishment, especially death. So option number B, condemned, is more powerful and strong in expressing the emotions of the people, that is disapproving the terrorist attack, conveying the best intended meaning here. So condemned is better suitable or correct answer than option number A, criticized. Let's also take a look at options C and D. So option number C, condoned. Condoned is a verb which means to accept or allow something wrong to continue, often implying approval or forgiveness. So it is totally an opposite to options A and B. Criticized and condemned, they imply disapproval, and condoned on the other hand, it is approving in nature. Example, I don't condone such rude behavior, or I don't condone animal abuse in the fashion or cosmetic industry. So in this given sentence and context, this verb condone cannot be in any way even eligible to be considered as a suitable option, as it would straightaway imply and change the whole meaning to support or give a big yes to the terrorist attack. Now, among the civilians, other than some politicians, for their own benefit, hardly anyone can accept or validate some terrorist attack. I believe this condone verb is not appropriate for this sentence or for this sentence intent. Next, last option, concede, is also a verb which means to admit or agree that something is true after first denying or resisting it. So again, condone and concede, they both are opposite to the sentence intention, and also they're opposite to options A and B, which are suitably appropriate. So the correct answer, which is the most appropriate of all of the four options, is condemned. The next question, question number 7, is the professor has agreed to take dash classes for weaker students. So here, first look at the sentence and guess its intention. So what's happening in the sentence? There is a professor, means it's an educational institute, and there are classes and there are students who are weak. So this is related to some education, right? So we have to keep the intent of education in mind while choosing the correct answer. Option number A is practice, which is a noun, and it means something which is habitual, customary, or expected procedure or way of doing something. So practice classes here would denote rehearsal classes. That is, the students would be repeating, rehearsing, and reapplying the topics or skills. If the subject was other than some academic, like a vocational subject, or was sports, some kind of sports, like football, basketball, etc. So if the professor was of some sports, then for weaker students, practicing and revising topics would be beneficial. Or even in the subjects like maths, practice is the key. You have to practice the theorems, you have to practice the calculations, etc. So in maths also, as a subject, you can have some practice classes. So not so much satisfactory or appropriate word here unless more information about the subject or the professor's pedagogy is mentioned here. Then option number B, redressal, is also a noun, which means a remedy or compensation for a wrong or grievance. For example, there was a water leakage and the school assured the students of a speedy redressal. Here in the given sentence, we are provided the info that there is a professor who has some weak students in his class. This implies that the students are unable to understand something or some topics and hence are getting lower marks in their academic subject. So now this professor has to do something, that is find a solution and help those kids. Therefore, redressal can't be the right answer, as redressal is an act of correcting or compensating for something wrong or unfair, and it's not typically used to describe classes or educational support. So, redressal classes is not a standard or meaningful or idiomatic phrase, especially in teaching methodology. Also, redressal can't be the right answer because getting lower marks or failing the exams, or if someone is weak in any subject, it does not mean it is a crime or a wrongdoing or needs compensation. Then jumping on to option number D, bridge. What's bridge? You must have heard, we have seen bridge, we have walked over the bridges a lot in our life, especially in the cities. So bridge is an elevated platform or a structure carrying a road, path or railway, etc. across a river or a road or any other obstacle. You must have heard many times of this term. Bridge classes. Very common. Bridge classes or bridge courses. So sometimes students are transferred into a new school due to any personal or professional scenarios or circumstances, and if they come in the middle of the session in the school, then they are given a bridge course or classes to help them cover up the previous syllabus quickly. Other instance or other example I can give you is that if a child is transitioning between levels, such as, or for instance, from high school to college, or from class 8th to class 9th, or class 5th to class 6th, then there is a drastic change between the subjects, the syllabi, the curriculums, and the number of subjects also, and the books as well. Some or many students feel this sudden change quite harsh and heavy. So the bridge courses or bridge classes help the students transition between those levels. Here, in this sentence, it is not an appropriate noun to fill in the blanks in this sentence, as we are not provided any information about the transitioning of levels or grades or the status or proficiency level of those weak students, in which grade or level of class they are, what is their age, etc. So bridge is less specific to address the academic weaknesses compared to the correct answer, remedial classes. Yes, they're very common in standard English and in education industry and in education and teaching methodology is remedial classes. Remedial classes is the correct answer. So what is remedial? Now remedial is not a noun, it is an adjective, which means giving or intended as a remedy or cure. And in education, it is a help or remedy provided for students who have not achieved the level of attainment necessary for them to be able to study with their contemporaries. So, remedial classes is a standard phrase in education referring to specialized instruction designed to help students overcome their academic weaknesses or deficiencies. In this sentence, the professor has agreed to take remedial classes for the weak students. Precisely conveys that the professor is offering targeted support to help these students improve, making it the most appropriate choice. Alright, let's move on to the last question of the day of this video. To choose the appropriate options from A, B, C, and D. So option number A is hardly working people. The phrase hardly working means barely working or not working much, and it might be associated with laziness. This has a negative connotation and is unlikely to be the intended meaning, because if we look at all the four options, then it seems that this sentence is intended to praise the people of Japan in a positive way. So hardly working people contradicts the common perception of the Japanese as industrious and people who work very hard. Now, similar to this option A, we can see that option number D, with just the difference of indefinite article A, is there. Option number D, a hardly working people. We have already discussed above that this given sentence has a positive intention. And similar to option A, hardly working implies minimal effort or laziness. Adding A doesn't change the negative meaning, making this option inappropriate. So both option A and D are the wrong answers. So option number B and C both are grammatically correct. They are both idiomatic and natural, and in standard English they are very much correct. They also convey positive trait, both of them. Hardworking. Why? Because hardworking describes something industrious in nature, aligning with the positive connotation and typically associated with this description of the sentence here, that Japanese people, the people of Japan, are industrious. They work very hard. So where the difference lies between both the options B and C? If you take a closer look, then difference between these two is only in the article, which is here in the option B and not in option C. Now, why article A? A or an, they are indefinite articles and they are not used with plural nouns, only used with singular nouns, and that too mainly with countable nouns. So coming back to the sentence or these options which complete the sentence, we have people. People is singular or plural? Well, people is plural of the singular noun person. So while people is generally used as a plural, it can also be used to refer to a nation, a tribe, or some ethnic group, in which case it can be treated as a singular. For example, the German people, the American people, the Indian people, or the Chinese people, they are all singular nouns. Therefore, A article is used in the right answer, that is option number B, a hard-working people. So the option number C lacks article A, which is needed here to refer to the Japanese as a collective group or nationality. So Japanese is a collective group and is a nationality, and therefore it is singular.